Okay, so this tutorial is to show you how to turn a color file or photograph into a black and white image. I'll also be showing you how to make some minor adjustments to your levels, your brightness, and your overall contrast. So the first thing you'll want to do is drag the file that you're wanting to adjust. In this case, it's on my desktop into Photoshop. Another way you can open the file is by left-clicking the file and opening with Adobe Photoshop like that. So once you have your file open, there are a couple things that I just want to show you that will help you navigate your image. One thing is just your magnifying glass. On your left side of your bounding box here, where your image is, you'll notice you have a toolbar. And at the bottom of your toolbar, toward the bottom of your toolbar, is your zoom tool. If you click on the zoom, you see as you roll over the image here, a magnifying glass with a plus sign is visible. If you click on the image, you can get closer to whatever part of the image you want to see better. So you can click and click and click and click all the way up to, I think it's 3,000%, or it's 12,000%, excuse me. And then you can hit Command 0 to zoom out. A few helpful shortcuts. Command plus sign is to zoom in. Command minus sign is to zoom out. Wherever you click, it will zoom toward that area. And again, Command 0 will bring the image back out. So if you wanted to zoom in, say, to your subject's face, you'd simply click or drag the magnifying glass in. Now, you can use your hand tool, which is located above your zoom tool. So if you were to click on that, to drag around your image. For me, I have a tendency just to use my trackpad on my laptop. With my two fingers, I can zoom in and around my image. I also can use my trackpad to zoom in and out, just like you can when you're browsing the internet. You can zoom in and out of things using your trackpad as well. Okay, so to change your image to grayscale, from color to grayscale, you'd start by going up to image. Just below image is something called mode. And as you can see right now, it's set to RGB color at 8-bit. I'm going to want to change that to grayscale. Once you change your image to grayscale, you have removed the color from the image permanently. So if you're going to be working on this image but want to come back to your color image eventually, I suggest going to save your file immediately after changing it to black and white. Go to Save As. And again, I would do this first so you don't forget. And just at the end, you can add BW for black and white and go ahead and hit save. Make sure your quality is set to the highest quality. I would make it 12. The default is different depending on your computer, but make sure you save it to 12. And now you have your original color image still and a separate black and white image as well. So now let me show you how to make some adjustments in Photoshop. If you go to Image, just as you did to change it to grayscale, and you head down to Adjustments, just below Mode, you go to Adjustments, you'll see here you have some options on how to adjust the brightness and contrast, your levels, your curves, your exposure. You can even turn your image into a negative by hitting invert, and all of these other settings that you can change. But for right now, I just want to show you guys brightness and contrast, levels, and exposure. So let's start with brightness and contrast. With brightness and contrast, it's just that. You can adjust the brightness of your image by bringing it down or by bringing it up. And you can see the lighter areas getting brighter as you adjust your brightness and your lighter areas getting darker. Notice how the mid-range and darker parts of your image aren't as affected. It will affect those, but it will primarily affect the brighter areas of your image by changing the brightness. If you go really high, obviously you'll notice the darker areas too. But that can be a useful tool for very minor adjustments in your brightness. I'm actually going to turn this down a little bit. And then down here, you'll notice your contrast. And that will create more separation. The more you go toward positive, toward the right, you'll notice there's more separation between your brighter elements of your photograph and the darker elements of your photograph. So to the right, more contrast. To the left, less contrast. It creates a flatter image. Notice how your tonalities become more even when you go to the left, and when you go to the right, they become more separated, more extreme. So I'm just going to adjust the contrast ever so slightly. And if you want to see the adjustments you've made, you can simply click on this preview button and it shows you the before and after. Before and after. When it's checked, that means you're looking at the adjustments you've made to your image. Okay. So again, go to adjustments, and if you go to exposure, I'm just going to show you for right now the exposure tab. This very little does a lot here. So I don't recommend you guys use this too much because you can overexpose and underexpose an image significantly by playing with this exposure reel here. So just small minor adjustments to play with your overall exposure, up, down and up. And then again, go to image, adjustments, and then to levels. And you'll see a histogram pop up. A histogram not so dissimilar than from the one that you see in your camera. Now you see the histogram is pushed to the far left. Just like with your camera, it's pushed to the far left because it's a relatively dark image. So you can see here where it's a small, sort of like a steep peak here to the left. That's because the overall image is quite dark. There aren't any pure whites in this image. You can see it's brighter in her forehead, but it's not a bright white like the white of your paper would be. So I'm going to take my white point here and drag it to the left to brighten my image slightly, and I'm going to leave my blacks where they are and just take my mid-tone tab here and turn it down a little bit so it's a little bit darker. And again, you can see your preview here so you can see how your contrast overall has been adjusted. I prefer the image just as it was. Some of you may prefer it with the adjustment I've made. So I don't want you guys making more adjustments than to your brightness and contrast, to your levels, or to your exposure. Minor adjustments at this point, if any, guys. Don't go too far. It's going to become clear if you've gone too far that you've doctored the image. Think minor adjustments and improvements to your image. Then once you've made your adjustments, remember to save your file. I didn't make any adjustments to it, so it's not giving me the save option. If I would be able to save my file.